Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special time of the year for our program, the final presentations, a celebration knowledge. For the next 30 minutes, we're going to have a journey with Macy Fisher. Macy is going to talk to us about all these years of preparation and how it lines up to her passion to make a difference in the lives of students. She's going to answer 3 questions. Who do I aspire to be as a teacher? What opportunities have I done to become better prepared? And how am I prepared to make sure she can maximize her time at Seaglands Grove with Valerie Frost? Macy, we are excited to learn with you, and the show is yours.
All right, well, I would like to first thank everyone for being here this afternoon to watch me give my final presentation, and I hope you enjoy it. So just to start off a little bit, I would like to talk about who I am a little bit. I grew up my entire life on my family's owned and operated dairy farm in Mifflin County. So I started off right off the bat immersed in the agriculture industry and developed a passion for it very early in life. Came up through the 4-H and FFA programs, was able to serve as the president of my FFA chapter and received my American FFA degree in 2014. And through the 4-H and FFA experiences, I was able to go through many career development events and have various supervised agriculture experiences. Was able to show livestock and dairy, pretty much showed anything you could except for steers and horses, but dairy was definitely my favorite with showing my little brown cows jerseys. Graduated high school in 2012 from Mount Union Area High School. Attempted to throw a discus 3 times, so didn't do sports. But I did competitively square dance for 13 years and still do when I have time. So I did graduate in 2012, and if you can do math, this is now 2018, so it took me a little while to get to this point in my life, but I did know from the time I was in 9th grade that I did want to become an agriculture educator. Just had to go loop around a little bit on my road until I got to this point. So who do I aspire to be as a teacher? To start off this part of the presentation, I would like to direct you to the infographic that I handed out that is about my personal teaching philosophy. So who remembers the song Head, Shoulders, Knees, and Toes from a kid? Yeah? Okay, so my teaching philosophy is head, shoulders, knees, and toes too, but it's not just learning where they are on the body. So in my philosophy, the head symbolizes where learning occurs, and that also aligns with my classroom. That is where the learning will occur, and I want to have an inclusive classroom where anyone is welcome to enter into the door and they will be treated all the same. And this is also where I would like to teach content to students and make sure that they are able to understand how that content connects to real life and can be applied later on. The shoulders in my teaching philosophy is what supports the head, obviously. So as the unit of support, I will both emotionally and academically support my students. I want to make those personal connections with my students so that I'm able to give them advice and they don't just brush it off, they actually take it and apply it in life. And by supporting them academically, I want to be able to have a variety of teaching styles and methods. That way they are all able to learn the content that I'm presenting to them in the way that they need necessary. Moving on to the knees. The knees on your body are what propel you forward, and I would like to be the knees for my students by being a stepping stone that propels them forward to their future, whether it be a career or to college. And finally, the toes. The toes are what keep your body in balance, and I feel that for my students, all 3 of these earlier said aspects need to be kept in balance. But for me personally, I also know that I need to keep my life in balance. So that means, if you know me, learning how to say no to people sometimes, because I have an issue with that, but I'm going to work on trying to keep my students and my life in balance. So we each had to make classroom management posters, and these these will be placed in Mrs. Fry's classroom when I'm at Selinsgrove, and then hopefully I'll be able to take them on to my future classroom after my student teaching experience. First I have my consequences, which is number 1's a warning, number 2 is an office referral, 3 would be a call home, and number 4 would be a detention. Then my procedures are come in and find your seat, prepare for learning, and complete the bell work that will be posted on the board every day. Keep all electronics away. That would be like personal electronics like your phone. Selinsgrove is a one-to-one school, so they're able to use their laptops, so they won't have a need to have their phone out. But if I would go into a school later on that is not a one-to-one, I would of course give the students permission when we need to use them as an electronic device for classroom activities. Makeup work equals 3 days, so if you miss a class or miss an assignment, that you have 3 days to turn it back, to get it back into me. And finally, be clean. I'm not your maid, and I don't like to work with messy areas. I'm a very organized person. I need everything to have a spot and stay in it, so I hope that my students would also keep their workstations clean and neat. Finally are my expectations, and actually, so the first day of each class that I have in the spring, I'm going to present my expectations, procedures, and consequences, and I actually have a fun activity planned for when I do the expectations. As you can see, my number 1 expectation is to always be respectful, but each letter of respectful stands for a different word. And what I would present to students is have large sticky notes or post-its on the wall, and I would like for them to go around and try to either write in words or visualize with pictures what they believe that word looks like or means to them before I explain what that I think that these would look like. So that's just a fun activity I think I could do on my first day with them. But those are my classroom management procedures and expectations. So for our AE 413 class, we had to come up with our ideal program, and this is along the lines of what I would like. I'd love to teach every class, but that's physically impossible. So I kind of went along the lines of all 9th graders coming in would take the Ag Foundations class, and then they could branch off into 3 different pathways that would be covered within that Ag Foundations class. They could take the plant science pathway and take horticulture and greenhouse management, an animal science pathway, or an ag mechanics pathway. And then when they get to senior year, they could take wildlife and fishery science or ag leadership. Wildlife and fisheries management, I think, is a good way to wrap up the 3 of those pathways. It involves animal science and plant science, and if you start to get innovative, definitely ag mechanics if you would think about some of the like the mechanics and equipment that's used within that career pathway. And then ag leadership is just a great overhanging course to prepare students to go into whatever pathway they care to take after high school. So for AE 350, we had to do a comprehensive lab integration plan, and that had 3 phases to it. First was the lab management plan, which was where I had a contract for students to sign that explained all of the safety rules. And then I also had a parent contract that the parents then had to sign saying, yes, I know my students agreed to this set of rules. That way nothing can come back and be like, I didn't agree for my students to follow this set of rules. Also found within the management plan is what required PPE, personal protective equipment, each student would need, and some of the equipment that they'll be using every day. The next phase was a facility design. I chose to design a greenhouse. I hope to either go into a program that already has an existing greenhouse or to go to a program where I could design and build my own. Plant science isn't one of my strongest points, but I definitely see the value of it and would love to be able to have students in a laboratory facility such as a greenhouse, because I know the benefits of being able to actually go out and propagate the plants and do hands-on learning within the greenhouse. The final part of our 350 lab integration was our budgeting project, which is where we had to complete a $15 project. And my $15 project was a black pipe towel rack, bar, whatever you would like to call it exactly. So it does attach to the wall like this, so then you can hang a little towel on it. But what I would have students do is, this is 1/2 inch black pipe, and it originally comes in 10-foot sections. So students would have to learn to cut the pipe and then use a pipe die to thread the ends of this pipe as well as the nipples that are connecting the elbow to the floor flange. And then it actually has a purpose afterwards. It's not just a paperweight that's going to sit around. They can actually take it home and put it up in their house. So I can pass this around. It might turn your hands black though. Just a little disclaimer.
Notebook as well.
There you are. So, like I said, that was the lab integration plan that we had to do for 350. Next is, how will I implement SAE and FFA into my spring and in future years in my own program? So, as an ag educator, we live by the 3-circle model, which covers FFA leadership, supervised agriculture education, and classroom laboratory instruction, which I'll get into a little bit later. But right now, I'm going to focus on the FFA part. And my program, with a future FFA chapter, the actual FFA chapter would be student run. They would be making the decisions, and I would just be there as an advisor and for guidance. It's not my chapter, it's their chapter, so they need to have student ownership and guide the program where they believe that it needs to go to be successful. I also really am a true believer in the new affiliate membership that our state has adopted. It now allows any student who sits in an agricultural classroom to be an FFA member, and my goal and dream would be to take the quantity of students that you have and turn them into quality leaders. Some teachers have mixed feelings about affiliate membership, but I truly think that it's just an opportunity to get more students involved and get them on a path to find their own passion. So for SAE, I think this is a great opportunity for students to have their own autonomy, which would be where they find something that they are passionate or interested in, and then they find the motivation to go and research or do a project based on that. We got an opportunity last fall to try this out a little bit for ourselves using Pink Time, and I found it highly beneficial. Plus, I had SAE growing up in the FFA program, and this is truly a place where students can thrive within their own pathway. It's also a great way for students to make connections to future careers if they feel driven that way. And this is actually a picture of one of my students at Seelings Grove. He truly is living the 3-circle model. So he took the welding class with Mr. Swineford and was able then to compete at state convention on the ag mechanics team, which actually placed second and went to Big E. And now his SAE is metal fabrication, where he restores older vehicles or fixes vehicles that people bring to him by using the metal or the welding skills and metal fabrication skills he gained through the classroom instruction. So next is a short little recruitment video that Katie and I did together, mostly Katie, but So that is the video that Katie and I created. It's really short, it's only a minute long, hoping to show students the opportunities that they can find within the ag classroom. It's not just about being a farmer anymore. We can really project you wherever you really want to go. We can connect it back to agriculture and teach you something in our classroom to help get you there. So in the spring, we have to complete a community-based unit of instruction, and my community-based unit of instruction will happen within my Ag Foundations class, and it'll be within my plant science unit. So our plan at this point is to have a Penn State extension agent who specializes in soil science or fertilizer application to come in, and they're actually going to guest speak for a day in the classroom and teach the students about soil science, the nutrients that are found within it, how to manage those nutrients, so on and so forth. And then we're actually going to go the next day and actually perform soil tests on the raised garden beds that are within the community. The students are going to evaluate those tests and find out what needs to be applied to those garden beds so that they can have a successful spring. And then we're actually going to go and apply what needs to be added to those raised garden beds so that, like I said, we can have a successful spring once people start putting stuff in the planters. So what opportunities have I engaged in to become a better agriculture educator? It would have to start with the key courses that I've taken here at Penn State. I really enjoy all of the AEE courses that I've taken over my course here. I had to think long and hard about which ones stuck out the most to me, and I came up with the top three being 412, 413, and 350. Without taking 412, I truly would not know how to apply the methods. I wouldn't even know the methods, let alone how to apply them in a classroom. I'd probably just be standing up there every day and be like, here's a PowerPoint. And it's way more than that. 413 with Dr. Ewing and program planning really helps us get down to the nitty-gritty of the stuff behind the scenes that nobody ever knows about. I came up very involved with my FFA program and thought that I knew everything that went into it. No, I knew nothing. Dr. Ewing opened my eyes to everything that really needs to be done in order to even have your classroom and your FFA program. And finally, 350 was how to teach in a lab setting, specifically ag mechanics. Not only did it help me to harness, there we go, that's right, harness the ag mechanics skills that I dabbled in the spring, but I also was able to think of all the things that you need to process through when you have students in the shop, like what are the safety precautions you need to take, where are all the the fire blankets, the fire extinguishers, how do we teach students to be safe on this piece of equipment. You can't just simply send them out there and say turn it on. And then in the College of Ag, probably thus far, my favorite class that I've taken would be Intro to Dairy Judging and Sci 225 with Dale. Dairy judging is a very large passion of mine. Long before I even had the dream of becoming an ag teacher, when I was 8 years old, I looked at my mom and I said, I'm going to judge cows someday. I haven't been able to do that quite yet, but it's still a goal of mine, and with all the free time I have as an ag teacher, I know I'll have no problem getting to that. But I did take Intro to Dairy Judging last spring, I lied. And not only was it a fun course, but it taught me how to be comfortable talking in front of individuals, how to make quick decisions, how to make those decisions and then stick to them, and be able to give reasonings as to why I make those decisions. Finally, outside of the College of Ag, probably not my favorite course, but the course I learned the most from would be organic chem. I was terrified to take organic chemistry, to say the least, and I don't think I could tell you anything I learned in there anymore, but the professor that I had helped me to realize that there are ways to make those classes that students are terrified of super fun and really not scary anymore. She used a variety of teaching techniques and had high enthusiasm. It made it really personable that I forgot all about the fact that it was a hard class. So I was able to gain 3 certifications over the past 16 weeks, and that is the National Safe Tractor Machinery Operation Program, Youth for the Quality Care of Animals, and First Aid AED CPR certification. Professional development. So being part of the Ag Ed family here at Penn State gives you countless opportunities to grow as a professional, and they lived up to it this past year for me, starting back in July when we were able to go to the Pennsylvania Agriculture Education or Association of Agriculture Educators Conference in Philadelphia. Not only was I able to network with the teachers that were there and gain more content knowledge, I also was able to see what an urban agriculture education program looks like. David Rivera opened the doors at Walter Biddle High School and showed us what his program looks like and how he makes impacts in the lives of students that live in the inner city of Philadelphia, which I think had greatly impacted all of us and helped us to see how diversity could really work within our own classrooms. We also were able to go to the National Convention, where I was able to again network with teachers and be part of workshops, and I got to be connect with my students a little bit more. And just last week we were able to go to the NAAE conference in Nashville. While we were there, we got to be part of a very special workshop, which was on inclusion. And my biggest takeaway from that specific workshop was that you can ask students to come to the party, which would be your ag classroom. You can ask the students to dance by getting involved with the classroom. But it really doesn't matter to them until you start to play their favorite kind of music. How can you make that journey and that time in your classroom specific to that individual? So that was a really big eye-opening experience for me, and I'm so glad that you guys were able to make it possible for us to go. So other related experiences that I've had to my Ag Ed journey. Over the summer I was able to be part of the domestic study away to Wisconsin, where again we were able to see a grand diversity of classrooms, starting with Mr. Grove in Cleveland, where again we were seeing an urban high school and Ag Ed setting. I've never seen an ag classroom like that ever before, nor be able to engage with students like that. I don't think I'll ever forget the time that we spent there with Jeremy Grove in Cleveland. We also got to see some other rock star students or teachers like Roger King, Sir, Ms. Salvala. Again, I just will never forget the time that I had in Wisconsin with the PSU Ag Ed 18. I also was able to be a part of outdoor school, where I got to teach younger students, which found out not meant to be kindergarten teacher or elementary or middle school. Definitely meant to be a high school teacher. I was able this summer to work for the center here, for the Center of Personnel Professional Development. There's a lot of P's. Not only did I get to learn how to become closer to your coworkers, but I learned a very special skill for any teacher: how to work and fight with a copy machine. Got it down. I also was a Mifflin County Dairy Princess in 2011-2012, and I am currently still a 4-H leader for Beyond the Barn 4-H Community Club, where I'm able to have a little bit of a more informal setting for agriculture education. Okay, final part. How am I prepared to maximize my student teaching internship? So I will be teaching at Selinsgrove High School in the spring. It's in Snyder County, right along the Susquehanna River. And it's a 2-teacher program. I will be doing half of my day with Mrs. Fry and then half of my day with Mr. Swineford. And there's 134 students enrolled that can go into 2 pathways, ag mechanics or ag production. Their ag production does cover animal science and plant science. So when I was kind of looking over Selinsgrove and evaluating the school, some of the areas that I noticed that they excelled in was one, that they do have 2 pathways, which opens up a broad variety of classes for students to take. Really, there's a taste of a little bit of everything for everyone's taste. Wow, that was hard to spit out. But they do have the 2 pathways and a lot of different classes to choose from. They also have great SAE involvement. They have some really unique ones at Selinsgrove. There's a gentleman who likes to raise insects for his reptiles to eat, which is very interesting to me. And we also, they also this year gained the Trout in the Classroom program, which has opened up the doors for several students to kind of get interested in how they could take that SAE a little further than just the classroom and see how they could apply it outside of the classroom. Plus, they can log hours on it now. Selinsgrove is also highly involved with their community. They do adopt a highway, they go to the local veterans homes several times, and they work closely with the Sun Area CTC. A lot of the students go through the program first, spark the interest, gain the skills, and then go to the Sun Area CTC for their certification. Okay, so what does my spring look like? So this is the bell schedule for Selinsgrove. I came from a 1 teacher, 45-minute period block, or 45-minute period schedule. So when I went to a 2 teacher program that was on block schedules that weren't even the same total of numbers each block, it looked really wonky to me, but I'm now finding that I am even running out of time planning for a 90 minutes, so I don't know how I ever would have done it on 45. But if you look at the handout that I provided, my schedule for the spring is attached. The classes I'll be teaching with Mrs. Fry are in green font, and with Mr. Swineford are in red. And then there's a little ledger on the back that what each color stands for each class. When I teach at Selinsgrove, they are on an A and B scheduled day. So on A days, second block I'll always teach animal science, but third block on A days I'll teach animal science, and on B days I'll teach ag leadership. So my schedule's like, looks a little different than everybody else's, but it's okay. Yeah, I know what I'm doing. Okay, so my organization system for the semester is starting to fail me as I go through this, but we have a Google Drive where everybody shares everything, and it took me a while to figure out how to put stuff on there because technology is not my thing, but we'll get that to that a little later. I also use a lot of Post-its. I use a lot of to-do lists. I'm old-fashioned. I like things on paper in front of me. I used a whiteboard a lot of the time. I'd write things and I'd erase it as it comes off. I have like 12 thumb drives. Sometimes I panic when I can't find one of them. And then I have my lovely binders for the spring, and I'll pass one around to you guys. So everyone else had like these 2 to 3 inch thick binders with everything in it for the unit. I couldn't do it. I was like, that's just too much. So I had to make a binder for each class and then break it up by the lessons within that unit. So I have a bajillion little binders, but it works for me, so we're gonna go with it. So finally, some of my strengths that I believe that I possess is that I'm passionate about what I do whenever I go into anything. That definitely rings true for Ag Ed. I don't know if I show it all the time, I hope I do, but I'm very passionate about what I do and what I'm about to head into. I think that I have a lot of enthusiasm. I think that I bring a lot of variability to the classroom. I especially like doing interest approaches. Sometimes they're so wonky that they'd fail, but I tried. That's kind of where the creativity comes into play too as well. Like I really like to come up with new and creative ways for students to engage. Someone gave me a word earlier that says I'm adaptable. or that I can go with the flow, meaning I think that what they're saying is I don't get shook up too much, and that I can just, when something changes, I'm just like, okay, and just keep on going. I found that in the past couple weeks, maybe I need to be a little less like that, maybe have a little more stress in my life, but I don't know, I think I'm doing okay this way. Areas of improvement, like I said, incorporating more technology. I am not Twitter savvy. I'm trying to get better, and the fact that I'm going to a one-to-one program, I keep forgetting that they even have those Chromebooks, let alone even how to use them. So I need to figure out how I'm going to incorporate them into my everyday lessons. Class pacing, you can always do better at how to pace yourself in the classroom. I thought I was doing great when I was micro-teaching, and then I got to day 2 and I'm like, I covered this much of my lesson plan. Like, I had 5 other things I wanted to get over and it didn't even happen. You can always grow more, again, in specific content areas as well. I don't know everything. I'm never going to know anything. I'm going to be a lifelong learner, and I am perfectly okay with that. I'm a realist. Again, this was a word somebody gave me earlier. I guess I just don't put frills on things. I see things as they are, and sometimes I don't know if I'm a doom cookie or what, but I'm a realist apparently. And finally, I need to build the confidence within myself. While we were reflecting in Nashville, I opened up a little to my cohort that sometimes I hold back and don't completely share everything I'm thinking, or, you know, share everything or go as hard as I think I could. So I think I need to build my confidence up a little bit, which hopefully will help me to project through my goals for the rest of the year, which is to successfully make it through student teaching. I think we all have that goal in mind. And then my other 2 goals are to come back in the fall, finish out the last few requirements I need to get my certification, and finish them strong. Don't just come back and not find the motivation to move on any further. And then my final goal would to be finally graduate and go out into the world and be with my family. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Let's celebrate Macy. Macy now will enter into a phase of about 15 minutes where we will have questions from the audience, from the virtual audience, and then from the teacher education panel as they come up. And we generally give the first opportunity for questions to the audience. And so does anybody in the audience have a question they'd like to ask Macy?
Angie.
So out of all of your A days and B days, which unit of instruction are you most looking forward to teaching whenever you're at Sealands Grove?
So on A days, I will only be teaching Ag Foundations, and within Ag Foundations, I don't know if I'm more excited to teach animal science or the welding unit. I really enjoy welding now, but animal science is kind of my wheelhouse. That's where I feel comfortable. I know things can go wrong with welding, but I really just am excited to do that. Unfortunately, it's not until the very end of my student teaching, so I have to wait all year to get there. On B days, I only teach Ag Leadership on B days, and I'm teaching 2 units within that class, partly pro and self-concept. Kind of, we've worked with the title a little bit about that class. It's now knowing yourself and presenting yourself, where students will learn how to look at themselves and self-worth, self-image, motivation, character, things like that, and then be able to present themselves while giving a speech. I don't know which one of those I'm truthfully more excited to teach. Both of them they were the 2 units that I waited last to approach, so I was like, I just don't know how to teach these 2 things. So I think they'll both just be very new and exciting day by day to see how it goes.
I don't believe there's any questions online, and so we'll come to the teacher education panel. Dr. Curry.
Macy, you mentioned earlier that you were pleased to have affiliate membership in the state of Pennsylvania, and so I'm curious as to what your response or what your philosophy will be on with a student who says, you know what, I don't want to be involved with FFA. I get that my dues are paid, but I don't want nothing to do with the FFA. I'm here to learn ag class, or I'm here to be a part of your ag class, and that's it. How would you respond, or how do you engage with those types of students?
Well, the way I would respond to a student who says that I'm part of your class, but I don't want to do the FFA thing is by telling them that by enrolling in an ag class, you are going to be not just by affiliate membership, you are going to be part of FFA, because my classroom, we will live by the 3-circle model. So if you're in my class and you're part of the content that I give, we're going to apply it in an FFA setting in some way, shape, or form. You might not be going to the state conference to compete in a CDE, or you might not be going to those leadership workshops, but we're definitely going to be bringing parts of that into the classroom by doing activities that kind of mimic maybe a CDE. We're going to be, like in my leadership class, we're going to be presenting speeches. They don't have to go and compete at the county or regional level, but they do have to give that speech during my class. And like another example would be in my Ag Foundations class, we're doing a day on meat quality, so we're going to look at cuts of meat. Hopefully, by doing that and then me pointing out to them like, hey, did you know you can go on and do this at an actual FFA conference, might help them to see that, oh, maybe I do want to do that.
Wonderful. To our audience. Brandon, I'm waiting for your question. You think on that. Okay. Olivia, Brendan, or Manny have to ask a question before this is over, so y'all be thinking. One of you's got to carry the pack. All right.
Through your presentation, you mentioned several different life-changing experiences that you've had, but the one thing that I didn't necessarily hear you mention directly is the kind of diversity that you've been exposed to, and going into being a future teacher, how you're going to include those experiences and diversity into your class.
Sure. So the way that I've been the way that I've experienced diversity and how I will include it into my future classroom and programs is really by going on some of those professional development experiences. When we did go to Wisconsin, I did mention that we were able to connect with Jeremy Grove's classroom, which definitely I think opened all of our eyes to diversity and to show how we can teach agriculture education in an urban setting. I also really think that the workshop that we sat in on at NAAE on inclusion ties directly to diversity, and like I said, I really took a huge takeaway from that, not just the workshop that we had with him with the entire group, but as being a FAST participant, we had a separate section workshop with him a little bit later, and he showed us exactly some ways to apply that in the classroom, and it would be things like putting more students into groups, making sure that you address people as like students, not saying hey guys or ladies and gentlemen, don't use like gender titles. I picked some of that up when we were also in Wisconsin. And then when we were at PAAE, I was able to see how teachers use diversity right here in our own state when we were in Philadelphia with WB Saul. And I really think that just treating every student the same, but yet an individual at the same time. I'm not going to give anyone special treatment or hold anyone up to a higher bar. We're all going to be at the same level. I'm going to hold you all to the same expectations that they'll be able to see posted, but making sure that everyone that's at that level is then treated as an actual individual and that we're working towards your personal goals and your passions is how I'll implement diversity in my classroom.
Macy, you said something in your presentation that made me scratch my head about technology.
Yes.
You said that you're not good at it, but that doesn't seem to be a good enough answer for me. What are you going to do to change? So you identified it as an area of weakness, or I just don't do that technology. Well, so what is the goal to address that?
So in addressing my technology weakness, I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm not good at it or I won't do it. We live in a world that's very technology driven. You have to do technology wherever you go. It's not an option to not do it. I wouldn't say that I'm bad at it or that I won't do it. I just definitely need some coaching to get through it. So I plan on, when I go down to Selingsgrove in the next few weeks to get settled in and talk to Mrs. Fry some more, I'm going to need her to sit me down and be like, this is what Google Chrome looks like, this is what the students are using, this is how you put stuff onto it. I'm not completely against technology in any way. It makes things much more accessible and easier for students and opens up a lot of doors for sharing and collaboration, but I just need coaching through it is the biggest thing.
So what I hear you saying, Macy, is that you're going to purposefully ask Valerie to assist you in identifying ways to utilize Google Schools and Google Chromebooks
Absolutely.
on a weekly basis.
Yes.
Okay. Other questions from the panel? Dr. Ross?
Macy, both agriculture and education are dynamic and ever-changing. How are you going to maintain relevancy and stay current for your students?
So the way that I will stay relevant and current for my students in my classroom is by definitely taking advantage of the professional development that's offered to not just agriculture teachers, but any teacher. I know there's a lot of opportunities that come through a school that's for the entire staff and not just for the Ag Ed program. But I'll definitely be taking advantage of things that come up, such as case workshops, or when we're able to attend some of the workshops for the new and beginning teachers. I will be at every one of them. You can count on it. I know that they're very purposeful and not just getting us ready to move on, but we do learn a lot of new technologies. I think as the younger generation of teachers, the new information and the new up and coming thing has kind of pushed us first because we're a little more open and we're able to adapt a little better, and then we carry it on to the veteran teachers. So I plan on continuously learning the new methods, keeping up to date with the new technologies and advancements in agriculture, and like I said, taking advantage of those professional development opportunities whenever I can. If I have to take out some money or whatever, I want to make sure that I am able to go to anything that's going to help me grow as an educator, so that my students are able to grow.
Questions from the audience? Dr. Ewing?
So, Macy, talk a little bit about the program that you're going to, and we understand Chapter 339 and program evaluation. I'd like you just to talk for a moment about what are your thoughts on program reviews in terms of their relationship to compliance as well as improvement. So talk to me about those differences.
So the difference between compliance and improvements when using the 339 or any other kind of program kind of evaluation system.
What's another one that you might use?
The one that was put out by the council, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I do know that it came out and we did take a look at it in 413 with Dr. Curry when he guest lectured. It seems a lot shorter, and it's a little more, I think, broadened. PDE has done a good job of making 339 very specific, so that you have to really not really dig deep into your program, but just think about things that maybe you wouldn't have thought about before. It focuses on, like I said, the small details, like how do you connect with the career and technology centers in your area, or are you contacting the universities to see what your students could possibly go into there. As far as compliance versus improvement, so I don't know that you should just be submitting things just to be in compliance. Of course, you need to do whatever it takes so that you can continue to have a program, but I think that evaluation has really been put into place so that you do step back and look at your program and be like, okay, am I really doing everything I need to in order to help my students prepare and grow for the future? It's not really there to just be a checklist to say, look, I checked everything off, I'm good to go. It's really to make sure that you look at your facilities, your curriculum, really every aspect of your program to make sure that you are doing everything you possibly can for your students.
Audience, last call. Last question. You ready?
Yep.
When it's all said and done, it's April the 24th, I believe, or 23rd. You spend 15 weeks at Steelers Grove. What does Macy want students, colleagues, administrators, parents, and community members to say about her time as a student teacher?
So at the end of my time at Seelings Grove, I hope for any individual that I come in contact with during my time there to look back on me as a teacher and see that I really did put my all into it. I was a hard and dedicated worker because that is what I plan to do. But I also hope that they look at it and notice that it was a time of growth for me. I hope that they don't look at it and be like, did you know that she did that lesson completely wrong and tanked it? Because the students are still going to walk away with something, but I'm going to walk away with something even more than they did. This isn't just a time for the students to learn from me. It's more, I think, a time for me to learn from them. I hope that they will see that I am passionate about what I'm going to do in the future, and that I'm going to try to make my classroom not only just as fun as I can, but make sure that students are walking away more as a grown individual. I shouldn't say I don't really care. If they are not able to walk away spouting off the chemical formula for photosynthesis, but they were able to realize a passion or to come out of their box even just a little bit, or be able to stand in front of their classmates and give a speech, or go even further, I will be extremely happy. So that's what I hope people will realize by the end of my experience.
Thank you, Macy. Let's show our appreciation. We appreciate you coming.